5:31 in the final scheduled day of the legislative session, New York lawmakers voted on hundreds of bills.
But overnight, the Senate tweeted that the majority conference will meet this morning at 10 o'clock in the Capitol before the Senate reconvenes today at noon. We have the latest developments on what lawmakers accomplished yesterday. Efforts to legalize recreational marijuana have fizzled despite support from many lawmakers. The proposal will not pass this session. Senator Liz Krueger says great strides were made in negotiations, but there simply was not enough time to finalize details.
Legislation to extend the statute of limitations for rape in the second and third degrees has passed. This would allow victims to seek justice from their attackers in their own time. Currently, prosecution for rape in the second and third degrees must start within 5 years of the offense, with limited exceptions. This legislation would extend the limitation to 20 years for rape in the second degree and 10 years for rape in the third degree.
And New York lawmakers are adopting the nation's most aggressive carbon emission reduction goals. The measure passed in the Senate Tuesday sets a goal of 100% renewable energy by 2040 in an effort to address climate change. It also codifies a goal to reach net zero carbon emissions for the entire state economy by 2050.
With the passage of new legislation, workplace sexual harassment protections have been expanded. Previously, sporadic sexual harassment could be considered permissible as long as it was not pervasive. The new legal standard no longer mandates that harassment in the workplace be severe or pervasive in order for a victim to bring a claim.
And the so-called gay or trans panic defense will no longer hold up in New York courts. Previously, defendants could attempt to excuse violent attacks by arguing they were under extreme emotional distress because of their victim's sexuality. With the passage of new legislation, that's no longer considered a reasonable explanation for a violent crime.
The New York State Senate passed legislation to allow automatic voter registration. AVR would allow eligible New Yorkers to register to vote when they interact with government agencies like the DMV or Department of Health, making the registration process more accessible. Currently, there are more than 1 million New Yorkers who are eligible to vote but are just unregistered. 15 states and Washington, D.C. have already implemented a form of automatic voter registration.
Farm workers in New York now have the right to unionize, collect overtime, and get a day off. The legislation passed yesterday reverses the current law, which states that farm workers do not have the right to unionize. Farm workers will also now earn overtime pay for working more than 60 hours a week and have one guaranteed day of rest each week. Supporters say these workers deserve the same rights and benefits as other workers, but many farm owners have warned that the measure could dramatically increase labor costs.
And a bill that passed in the Senate back in March to protect New York call center jobs has now passed in the Assembly. The new legislation will protect those jobs by denying tax breaks to companies that move jobs out of state. New York Call Center Jobs Act would impact call center employers with 50 or more full-time workers. Employees like AT&T would be required to notify the Department of Labor if they intend to relocate at least 30% of call volume in a year. Those companies would lose all grants, loans, tax benefits, and state contracts.